tricks of inferior oblique surgery. So before going with my video, I would just like to highlight three important relations of inferior oblique, that is the macula, which is 2 millimeter away, the optic nerve, which is around 5 millimeter away, and the vortex vein, which is about 6 to 7 millimeter below. So only when you know these things, that is when you can actually perform an inferior oblique surgery very safely. So before we go ahead with the surgery per se, this is my incision. So you can either go ahead with the limbal incision, as was already discussed, where you can actually highlight the lateral rectus, hook it around, and then go around and hook inferior oblique, or as shown in this image, we can go ahead with a pharyngeal incision, where in the inferotemporal quadrant, we basically go around 7 to 8 millimeter beyond the limbus and we hook the inferior oblique. So the most important point here to remember is that we should always hook the inferior oblique under visualization. The major important factor with this is that the three most important structures which I've already shown, which are surroundingly, so we need to make sure that we don't damage those structures. Beginners can hook LR and IR, make sure they're not hooking any other muscle inadvertently. And if you can see there, the junction of the red and the white area, which is shown, marks the beginning of the inferior oblique, and the below white area shows basically the tenons. So just go beyond the red area and you hook the whole inferior oblique. Look out for that triangular zone which is just present below the inferior oblique, so that we are very sure that we are holding the whole of the muscle tissue intact. Partial hooking of the muscle is what may be responsible for residual inferior oblique overaction. So once you hook the inferior oblique, the area beyond is the intermuscular septum as well as the tenons. We need to be very careful with that we don't damage the tenons, lest the fat adherence syndrome can happen as a complication because of exposure of the orbital fat. Do a dissection as far as possible, a blunt dissection, and you can just open up the intermuscular septa just by a small nick in the incision, and the dissection can be completed thoroughly without damaging the posterior tenons. So once you do this job, now there are two ways. Some people actually take an incision and cut the inferior oblique. Some people cut the inferior oblique and take the incision, doesn't matter. This is the way which we people go around here, that we clamp it so that the whole thing is spread out. The anterior and the posterior border is very well visible when I'm actually suturing back during the recession process. And so then I take a suture. The point here is that the inferior oblique doesn't retract back. So you can even cut it and then take a suture. Doesn't actually matter much, doesn't make much of a difference. So the suture bites are being taken at the posterior and the anterior border. So just a minute. So it can be taken at the posterior and the anterior border. And so once the suture bites are already taken, then the process of recession starts. So the recession can be done according to the Parkes, Finks, or the Elliott and Ankin. The major thing is you need to isolate the inferior rectus here. So if for the beginners, if you have a problem isolating the inferior rectus through the same incision, you can actually pull the inferior oblique, which starts acting as an elevator, and the inferior rectus can be detected very easily. So once you detect that is the vortex vein, we need to take care that we don't damage the vortex vein when we are taking the suture bite over there. And so I have done a Parkes recession here, where the anterior border have placed about 3 millimeter from the inferior rectus media, the margin, lateral margin. So this is my anterior suture, and then followed by that about 3 to 4 millimeter behind, I take my posterior suture. So if you can see here, that with that, I think I just go ahead with the next because the time is jumping up. So just one small incision here, the graded recessions. This is about the Finks point, that is 6 millimeter lateral and 6 millimeters inferior. This is the Parkes 3:2. Elliott and Nankin at the IR, which can result in J syndrome and the anti-elevation. So you can modify by placing the posterior border at about 5 millimeter behind so as to prevent anti-elevation. When you want it to act as a depressor and intorter, maybe then you can go with an anteronasal transposition. So with this, I would like to conclude that this inferior oblique, whatever we have shown, is just a tip of the iceberg. It is basically an enigma. A lot of things underlies this. The video of myectomy couldn't be shown due to time constraints, but I think then we can have it in a discussion. Thank you.
Very nice video, Dipti.
Thank you, ma'am.
Very clear and everything. I think landmarks were very clear. So inferior oblique basically is a relatively very forgiving muscle. And that's why probably gets abused a little bit more than by the strabismologists, because it does not, but it can give rise to its own problems. If you don't do a proper dissection and isolate the muscle properly, you can have fat adherence. You can have a elevation, anti-elevation effect because of the scarring of inferior oblique. And probably it is important to choose which procedure to do for what, because there are several weakening procedures. You have shown recession, but there are people who do myectomy, there are people who do myotomy, there are people who do anterior transposition, then antronasal transposition. So each procedure has its own pluses and minuses, and but important thing here is to remember that proper dissection is required and can give rise to complaints if there is maybe some time later leading to anti-elevation and all. So dissection has to be very, very immaculate and very, very, very respectful dissection. And anatomical landmarks, which we need to remember, especially you pass the sutures after cutting, but there are people who would take the sutures before. So you must remember that inferior oblique insertion lies very close to macula. So probably it's safer way to do how Dr. Dipti did it, that you can first disinsert the muscle and then pass the sutures, because this muscle is unlikely to get lost even if you lose that clamp sometimes. But
Dr. Sumita, Dr. Sumita, sorry to just one question. Dr. Deepti, I saw she was taking the bites after putting the clamp in front of the clamp. Will it cause any problems like necrosis of the muscle where you have put the clamp?
No, actually unlikely that it causes, but because clamps are not that, I mean, you're going to keep it for a minute, that's about it, not even for a minute, few seconds. But if you perforate the macula, it probably is going to, patient is going to haunt you for your lifetime.
Just Dr. Deepti, I would like to add that most of the times when the mistake that the fellows or the junior people do is that when they pull on the inferior rectus a lot, sometimes the mark in the pass point itself is wrong. So you have to see the insertion correctly when you are marking. Otherwise, when you take your hook off, actually the inferior oblique is androrized. It's almost androtransposition when you want a recession, a pure recession. So once you take off the hook from the inferior rectus, it is always better to confirm again once whether the inferior oblique is where you want it to be. Most of the times the isolation and everything is easy, but the real effect of surgery depends on whether you want to recess it or androtranspose it or where exactly you want to put it. It may be less, or most often it is more. Sometimes I have to go to do a re-revision of it because it is too anterior to the inferior rectus is one. Secondly, whether have you noted any pupil anomalies or any ischemia because of too much traction on the inferior oblique while doing the surgery?
A lot of sound is getting disturbed, I think. I could not hear clearly. There was some problem with the sound. The thing is...
Sandra's mic is a problem. Sandra, just check.
There was some problem, yeah. I couldn't hear.
Yeah, even I could not hear.
Actually, when you're doing to the Parkes point, there is some, we are putting it 3 millimeters, which will also anteriorize the muscle by about 1 millimeter. So it's important to keep, whenever you are doing surgery on the inferior oblique, are you anteriorizing or you are just doing a recession? Because there could be certain amount of anteriorization with that much of recession also. So that I think is important, because if you do ATIO, some anteriorization, it is going to have more effect and is going to affect torsion more as compared to a pure recession. So if you want to more effect on torsion, then you need to do ATIO or ANTIO. Otherwise, and these are stronger procedures.